In today's Revisiting Classics, Edgar Allan Poe's The Masque of the Red Death. West hi everybody, and welcome to yet another video, and welcome to yet another review video, my dear friends. And this is actually the first episode of my brand new series called Revisiting the Classics, in which I will focus on works of art, be it a novel, a short story, a poem, even a painting that was done a long time ago and has been proved over the years and decades and centuries, and sometimes even thousands of years, to be an absolute classic and an icon, and being, well, the same famous as it was at the time of its conception, maybe even more, as it is the case here with Edgar Allan Poe, of course, one of the most prominent authors of the 19th century in the United States of America, and, a huge proponent of the horror genre, of the Gothic genre, a follower, really, I would say, direct follower, being influenced and inspired by authors like Horace Walpole or Mary Shelley, a man who is contributed with creating, really, the detective genre with his short story, The Murders at the Rue Morgue. A man who was plagued with unhappiness his entire life. He was, I think, if I remember correctly, born in 1809, died in 1849. My videos are not scripted, so everything I'm saying here is, from the top of my mind there. But what I want to focus on today is my own personal favorite short story of his, and this is, of course, The Masque of the Red Death. Now, you will have your own favorite stories from Edgar Allan Poe, you will have your own favorite poems, but this is mine. And it is precisely because it combines all those different kinds of things that Edgar Allan Poe was influenced and inspired by: the Gothic genre, of course, the story, actually, of The Masque of the Red Death being set in a castle, in a dark castle, being shrouded in darkness and mystery. And apart from that, of course, I think that The Masque of the Red Death was hugely influenced by the author's own life. So, if you're not acquainted with this short story, I do recommend you read it. It's extremely short. It's just a couple of pages short. It first came out in 1842. If I remember correctly, it was published in some sort of magazine, Graham's magazine, I think, and since then has received a lot of praise, and it's got even a very good film adaptation with Vincent Price in it. So yeah, I definitely do recommend you check it out. So what it's about a wealthy Prince Prospero, who is living at the time of a great epidemic. And that epidemic is not really, we don't know what it is. It's probably fictitious, but it's definitely inspired by things like tuberculosis and cholera, because Edgar Allan Poe describes it as involving a lot of blood, like spewing from different places and spaces on humans' body, and that it takes you very, very fast. Of course, he must have been, of course, inspired by plague as well, because the story goes that this disease, this epidemic, spreads all over the kingdom, and Prince Prospero, he gathers all the aristocracy and all his friends and all the richest people in the land, and they lock themselves in Prince Prospero's castle. And then they revel there. They, do awesome, like, orgies and parties and balls. And they are they are having fun when on the outside people are perishing from this terrible, terrible, terrible disease that is called the Red Death. And so Poe, in detail, describes the insides of the castle, and mainly like the great ball hall that there is one huge party the night of the story, and everybody's wearing masks and everybody's doing very twisted things. Of course, it was the 19th century, so he doesn't go into great detail, but you can imagine what they're doing. there, like all sorts of different twisted and kinky things, I'm sure. And so this huge hall is divided into different rooms, and each one of these rooms is divided into. Has got a huge, colorful window, and behind that window there is a fire blazing, and so that fire provides light that shines through each of the 6 rooms' windows, and provides the rooms with a strange aura. And one of these rooms is all black. So you've got, blue and purple and green and orange and white and violet, right? And then the 7th room, which is the black room, is all black, but the window is red, right? So when the fire shines through the window, it provides the room with extremely dark and bleak and gothic and scary aura. And those people, those visitors, are almost afraid to go there. And one of the most prominent aspects of this entire scene is a huge clock that chimes every hour. And everybody just stops when the clock starts chiming. A dark, large, black ebony clock chimes every time. Ding, 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 ding. And everybody stops. Everybody is frozen, in trance when the clock, strikes. And so everybody's, enjoying their revelry. And then the midnight comes. And suddenly they realize that, just before midnight, if I remember correctly, everybody realizes that there is a visitor there. There is a masked person. Of course, everybody's wearing a mask and a costume, but this is kind of this one. Nobody really is feeling very good about that particular apparition. And everybody had been kind of aware of its presence, but nobody really paid any attention to it. But suddenly everybody has noticed. And that strange apparition is dressed all in red and is wearing a mask that is a perfect replica of a corpse face. And it's all in red, and the mask is stained, and it looks like blood, and everybody's suddenly frightened. And they are so afraid of this new visitor, or old new visitor, that they want to get rid of the visitor. But everybody's afraid to approach it. And that apparition just walks from one room to another, as if it was like a spectre, like if it was a wraith. But everybody is afraid to stop it, except for Prince Prospero, who tries to stop it at the end. And he approaches the mask of the Red Death with his knife or dagger in his hand, and he falls onto the ground, and he's dead. So everybody just jumps at the mask of the Red Death. I'm just spoiling it for you now. Spoiler. All right. And they find out. By the way, it's a spoiler for a short story that was written in 1842. If you haven't read it by now, it's your fault. And they find out that there is nobody. There is nothing. Emptiness, darkness on the inside. But everybody realizes that the disease is among them. That it was actually the Red Death itself, bringing the death among them. And so I love about Edgar Allan Poe, what I love the most is the atmosphere that he was so masterfully able to create. And that's the atmosphere of fear. It is absolutely strikingly terrifying, the thought of the death having been with them the entire time, waiting, them having their fun, doing all those things that they enjoyed doing during this ball and those parties. And they had been locked there for a long time. and the death being there with them, watching them, waiting. You know, that just makes you feel, ugh. Yeah, it gives me the goosebumps, and not the good ones. And so there is a lot to talk about. Obviously, Edgar Allan Poe must have been inspired by tuberculosis, as I said, because at the time he was writing and publishing the story, his wife was suffering from tuberculosis, and his mother also perished from tuberculosis. And quite obviously, he must have been inspired by different epidemics and diseases from the past, such as the plague or cholera. And there is, like death and blood, appearing all around his work. This is one of his most famous tropes, of Edgar Allan Poe. Human life, mortality, death, disease. Being left alone. Your loved ones leaving, perishing. This is everywhere, all throughout his work. But The Masque of the Red Death, such a short story, but it can be studied in depth, and entire publications can be written about it. And I was a huge fan at university of Edgar Allan Poe. He is definitely, up to this day, like in my top 3 American authors, US authors. And I don't think, this will ever change. All right, then, let me know in the comments down below what you think, if you've read The Masque of the Red Death or any other short story or poem by Edgar Allan Poe, and what your favorite is. And I will be back with more revisiting classics. And that will be all. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm out of here.